Hello and welcome to another episode of Inter Club India podcast, where we talk everything Inter, the previews, reviews, transfer market, and everything in between. Tonight, we have a special guest, Rahul Sharma, who you know as Uncle Sharma on Twitter and every other channel. Hi Rahul, how's it going?
Hey everyone, thanks for having me on the best number one Inter podcast from India. But yeah, obviously I was hoping to be in better mood today. But yeah, here we are, Interisti, still soldiering through.
So diving straight into yesterday's match, were we just naive to believe that we had a chance to beat Real Madrid? I mean, was it Conte's stubbornness with 3-5-2 that cost us, or was Real Madrid actually so much better? Because coming from the first leg, I thought we had a chance. Real Madrid were there for the taking in the first leg, and we thought we could put up a fight yesterday, but it all crumbled. What do you make of the match?
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. We weren't naive to expect something. I expected something from this. As you said, Real Madrid, injuries, Benzema, Ramos, Casemiro didn't start. So they were definitely there for the taking. In the first leg, I saw Inter getting through the defense very easily every time pretty much we attacked. Conte's stubbornness, is that the reason? Probably yes. He's continuing. It's the 3-5-2 that is kind of more like a 3-4-1-2, which is infuriating. Last year we were the team with the best defense in Serie A, the second best attack, and he's kind of deviated from that style of play that we had last year, which is very confusing. But yeah, I think Real Madrid weren't that good. They weren't impressive in both legs, but Inter were just the worst team, especially yesterday. It was just Real Madrid on the pitch for me. There was no Inter, never turned up. Conte before the match said it was a final. If that's how we play in a final, I don't want to see us in a final ever. Very, very disappointing. Very, that's not what I was expecting. And yeah, what do you guys make of it all?
Yeah, and the Vidal situation, wherein like he completely lost his mind and let the team down, let the fans down. And as you said, if he's playing 3-4-1-2, I would prefer seeing Eriksen in the role, and he just subs him in like final 5 minutes. And what do you make of that? Like, does he want him in the squad, or what is happening there?
Yeah, the Vidal thing, obviously, he's the guy that Conte wanted so badly. He was doing, hissy fits to get Vidal. It was supposed to be Tonali. Most Inter fans wanted Tonali, but it ended up, the board, accommodated Conte's wishes. And Vidal, 66. I read today that he has 66 appearances in the Champions League, but you couldn't tell that out there, could you? Yesterday, he was the one being naive and behaving like a petulant child with the referee, which you could have argued it probably maybe was a penalty. It was a close call, but you don't behave like that, on a Champions League stage. And yeah, the Eriksen thing, that was almost humiliation. I felt like to Eriksen, 4 minutes left at the end and you bring him on for Lukaku. Like, what do you expect him to do? Like, that's just confusing. I hope one day we get some sort of explanation what has gone on in the background. Has Eriksen like done something to Lukaku, to Conte? Is he like tried to sleep with his daughter or something? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is going on there? Like, he's been absolutely humiliating in that substitution yesterday.
Manish, coming to you, like we were predicting 3-1 win for Inter in our preview, and we just got hammered by Real Madrid. As Rahul said, we didn't even turn up yesterday. It was just 11 dead bodies walking against Real Madrid. Like, what's your view on the match?
First of all, thank you, Gautam, and welcome Rahul to the show. Glad you joined us. So, last week we had a prediction round, and I predicted Inter to win 3-1. Previously, I think in the first leg I predicted a reverse, Real Madrid to win 3-1. But I was so impressed with Inter's performance. The first leg, I think Inter played really well, took the game to Madrid. Seeing on basis of that performance, I expected Inter to take this match, and especially with injury crisis, I thought now is the best time to attack a wounded Madrid. But like you said, Zidane clearly outplayed us. He outperformed us. He knew exactly Conte's stubbornness in the formation, and I was so impressed with Zidane's tactics. I think he used a certain tactic called fluid formation, like everybody could. It was overload in the left wing, overload in the right wing. It clearly exploited our defense. I think on one side we had Hazard in the left wing, then over that the left back Mendy. Also adding to the same wing is Nacho. So it's like complete overload. So our players felt confused because Conte, Conte prepares his team really well. He prepares tactics so well that our players are like drilled into that training sessions and stuff, exactly what they're told what to do. But something out of the blue comes, they're clueless. That's what happened yesterday. Our players seem absolutely no clue. What is Madrid playing? It's like Real Madrid, especially with Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. They were running circles around Gagliardini, like, and midfielders was completely like, I don't know what to say. It was completely, they dominated the match. As opposed to the first leg where we had much more control and much more chances. So I don't know what, normally they say Lukaku is not meant for the big games, but if you don't use Lukaku in these games, then where do we use him? So I'm really surprised, like I actually lost the words. I'm not feeling that bad because if we'd have played really well and then lost, yes, that would hurt. But completely, we had like no shots in target. And only Perisic, I think, last 10 or 15 minutes came and troubled the Madrid defense. Other than that, I think we were toothless in attack. Absolutely, like poor performance. There was no motivation. There was no hunger to perform. It was like pretty much like Conte decided, you know what, let's go out of Europe and just focus in the league. It felt like that way for some reason.
Parmeshwar, coming to you, do you think like Conte has just resigned to the fact like this will be his last season and now he doesn't even care anymore? He'll just stick to his team, stick to his players. Even the players he got, they're on a 2-year contract. Like you got these guys, experienced guys into the team to make a difference. But you have people like Barella and Bastoni making a difference, and they're kids. Like, where has it all gone wrong for Conte this year?
So yeah, first of all, welcome Rahul Sharma on the channel. Thanks for being a part of this. And yeah, to address your first question, Gautam, if Conte has given up on the project or like he doesn't care anymore. No, I don't think that's the case because you see his recent press conferences, the one before the Madrid game also, he was proper pissed off, like he didn't really want to face the journalists and all. And right now also an hour ago or something, he was, I think, asked right outside San Siro whether he deserves to stay in the job or not. So he was like, if by winter the club decides to sack me, then it's because I don't deserve to be here. So, that's what he said. So yeah, it's a bit of a gray area, right? Because ideally, if you look at the Conte from like a normal Antonio Conte, who's passionate about his work and determined to win, he wouldn't say this. He wouldn't, put put doubts over his future. So yeah, and coming to the match, as Rahul said, it's so obvious, like, because if you have a chance to pick players like Eriksen in the 11, who could really make a difference in this game, why not? You could see Gagliardini making silly errors. He, as soon as he got the ball, he would release it to players without even looking if they're being pressed or not. So, if you remember, he passed it to Ashley Young that almost led to Ferland Mendy scoring a second goal immediately. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say because I just get this feeling by his recent press conferences and the way he conducts himself on the touchline that he has more of a defeatist attitude recently, and it's transmitted in the players as well. Like you see it on the pitch, even players like Barella at times look lost, and Vidal, I don't know what to say. I mean, he's not been up to the mark. So yeah, it's a tough one to call, right? So yeah, let's see. I mean, over the weekend we've got another tough game, that probably is crucial for his future, Sassuolo. So it's a tough one to say. I mean, I guess if he thinks he has until winter to be judged, so be it. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, Rahul, I have a question for you. So what we are missing right now is a spark in the team, someone to create chances. And now Eriksen is probably leaving in January. And the thing is, like, he's been offered to Arsenal as well. What if Arsenal say, instead of paying you 15 million or 16 million pounds, you guys take Ozil and give us Eriksen? Do you think that would fit in, or there's one more rumor of Isco coming in? Do you think any of these would matter this year, or Will they fit in? Will Conte use them, or will it be another Eriksen situation all over again?
Yeah, I don't really see. If you bring in Özil, that's even more. That's the guy that even runs even well. I wouldn't say Eriksen doesn't run much, but the intensity is definitely even half of Eriksen. I think that will be of a even bigger issue. Özil's older as well now. He's like 31, I believe, 32 years old. So he's definitely not the right fit for a Conte. I would pay good money to see like the behind the scenes of that, of Antonio Conte telling Özil to run, but I don't see that happening. Isco, same. Although Isco is more of a ball carrier, more of a dribbler compared to Eriksen. So he could be a bit more useful than Eriksen, because Eriksen relies solely on his, ball playing ability and passing, which, we've seen that maybe we need a little bit more in that position. We need someone that carries the ball a bit more, takes a few more risks, beats a man. But I don't know if I'm not sure I agree with you that we need a creative outlet really, because in terms of goal scoring, we're there. I think the balance of the team is just missing. I think we need a defensive minded midfielder in there a bit more, and it's just there's so many holes every time we play teams. Like even yesterday I rewatched sometimes I punish myself and rewatch matches. I rewatched a little bit of the match, but I could only watch like the first 20 minutes and then I turned it off. But in those 20 minutes, the amount of gaps we had in the midfield was everyone goes up to press. Gagliardini went up, Vidal went up, and Barella also went up. So when all three midfielders go up to press, and then we don't win the ball, and there's massive gaps in midfield. So we need someone that can balance, and that's probably why Conte was obsessed with trying to get N'Golo Kante this summer. Someone that can be the superhuman runner to cover all those plugs and cover those holes. That's my view on it. But you guys probably maybe have some different opinion on that.
So Rahul, I wanted to ask you a question. All right, I just want to know what has changed from Inter from last season and this season. Last season, we had Biragi in the left wing, we had Candreva on the right wing. They seem more suited to the formation. And Inter were more solid and more accustomed to Conte's tactics as compared to this season. So, I don't know, this players have grown more over a season with Conte. Aren't they supposed to be much more drilled into Conte's formation? What do you say, compared to last season, this season, what has changed for Conte and what has changed for Inter?
Well, it's weird with Conte, yeah. Since that meeting that happened in August, where he was supposed to be the one where he was convinced to stay. Everything seems to be very different with Conte. He seems to be, calmer, a bit more, happy. Well, he's never going to be a happy chappy, but by Conte standards, he's a bit more smiling, a bit more positive in general. And his style of football is he earlier on the season. I don't know if you guys caught it, but in the press conference, he said he'd rather win 4-3 than 1-0. Like, I've never heard Conte say something like that. Like, Conte, in my eyes, is like, a defensive-minded coach who thinks about not conceding first. And this year, he's trying to turn into, I don't know, like Marcelo Bielsa, Pep Guardiola. I don't know what this transformation that he's going through. And, the formation that we're playing is technically still that 3-5-2, but that 3-4-1-2 makes a difference, because now we have that one guy who's always up there, who has to chase every time that our pressing fails. He's the one who has to make 50-60 yards every time. He's left the hole in there. Brozovic also, in the 3-4-1-2, it seems like a very small change, but he seems lost when he's playing in that flat four line. When he was playing as the defensive mid in the 3-5-2, the more traditional 3-5-2 we played last year, he was a lot more comfortable. And yeah, it's just, I'm not really sure in terms of Hakimi. Obviously, Hakimi, we were so excited about him coming in. Hakimi over Candreva, it was, you would say that's like a massive upgrade, but we're not using Hakimi to his strengths. Hakimi is best served on the counter attack, when he's got space, playing 1-2s with him, serving him on the run. But a lot of times we're serving him, he's so high up, he's next to Lukaku a lot of times. If you look at the average positions we play at the end of the matches when you look at the who scored average positions, and the positions of Perisic on the left wing back and Hakimi on the right wing, but they're all in the same line as Lautaro and Lukaku. So they're basically, playing as wingers. So it's there have been changes, but they're very slight, but they've made a big difference. And I don't like the style of play that we've had this year, but Conte seems to be very focused on this year. And it baffles me because, as I keep saying, last year we had the best defense, we had the second best attack in Serie A. So I don't really understand if there was a need for this change in the style of play and formation, and he's sticking to it. I mean, in my mind, from what he said, we changed the 3-4-1-2 to accommodate Eriksen. But if we're not going to play Eriksen, what's the point of continuing with the 3-4-1-2? What's the point of keep trying Barella and Vidal in that CAM position when they're not CAMs? Like, I don't understand. I'm very confused by this.
Right. So, yeah, Parmesh.
So Rahul, or along similar lines, I had a question for you. So now the fact that he continues to, play a 3-4-1-2, and it's obvious that, all of us are confused as to why, because he doesn't use Eriksen and he either plays Vidal or Barella there, and, it doesn't really help Vidal. So if that was the case, when it comes to the January window, who would your ideal signing be? Like, let's say, he's definitely gone. So who would you get in place of Eriksen? Like, assuming he continues a 3-4-1-2 and the type of players he loves. So who would you get, like, in realistic terms?
Yeah, in realistic terms, if we manage to get rid of Eriksen and get someone that is not alone, someone that actually pays money for Eriksen around the whatever 16-20 million mark that we talked about earlier, I think my ideal player, which I thought he would have fit in perfectly, not even just this season, but even last season, is Rodrigo De Paul from Udinese. I know a lot of Interisti have been calling for him. I think Udinese's price tag of 35 million euros, there's reported, it puts a lot of people off. I'm not sure if maybe that could be negotiated down, but he's pretty much Conte. He's already made for Conte. He's an all-round midfielder who's started off his career as like a winger, CAM, but then he's come a bit deeper as his career has gone on. He's last year he had the most. He was one of the top 10 in Europe for ball carries, and this year again I think he's in the top 5 this year, even better. Like, that guy is carrying Udinese on his back. He's a creative outlet. He can score goals. He can dribble. He's a really good passer. He can play deeper. He can play the CAM. So for me, he would be a perfect fit for an Antonio Conte team. He's got that intensity about him as well. He starts for the Argentinian national team as well now. I think he's the perfect fit if we're going to continue with this 3-4-1-2/3-5-2.
Yeah, and sticking with the transfers, last season we were saying we didn't have the depth, and initially in one of our podcasts we were speaking about whether the depth we spoke about the start of this season, which we had, was it just an illusion, or do we actually have the depth that we need to compete?
Well, I think it's one of those seasons, though, isn't it? With the COVID and the injuries, I saw a stat from the Premier League, which was there's been like a record amount of muscular injuries already, and we're not even halfway through the season. So it's one of those years where even though we do have the depth, it's just that someone is out with COVID for 2 weeks. Like, Skriniar was out for like 3 weeks with COVID. You don't even know how long someone will be out. Then you have the Sensi is just the glass man. You don't even know when you can rely on him. He's even when he's fit, he's not fit. You have Nainggolan. We don't know what's going on with the Nainggolan situation. He was supposed to be he had a good season with Cagliari last year. I think he had 7 goals and 6 assists or something like that. And Conte said in the past that he wanted Nainggolan at Chelsea, and in when you think about it, Nainggolan is like a Conte type player, so you think he would have been great for Conte, but Conte seemed to fire some shots at him like a couple of weeks back where they asked him about Nainggolan, and he said, yeah, you can see his condition. So it seems like maybe Nainggolan, we know his reputation about not being the hardest worker and model professional, and he obviously wanted to go back to Cagliari, so maybe he looks like he's not really putting the work in the training ground. So that's, and since in Nainggolan, you're already -2 there from the depth. So in theory, we had the depth, but maybe with the COVID injuries and these issues, it seems like in the end we don't really have much depth. And then we know the striker position, that's is confusing why we still haven't signed, a real alternative to Lukaku. Obviously, we were kind of forced to bring back Pinamonti. It was that we had that gentleman's agreement with Genoa, but clearly we need someone that can provide an alternative to Lukaku, someone that provide a plan B. And Alexis Sanchez as well. It seems like he's not really a second striker anymore. I think he's more of a CAM, as we've seen against Torino, and when we came on against Fiorentina. He doesn't have that goal threat about him anymore. So when Lukaku or Lautaro are injured, we really missed the alternative. So in the end, maybe that depth we all talked about in the end probably is not really there.
And recently, Giroud's name has again popped up for the January transfer window. Do you think he'll be an addition, or you just don't want him here?
No, Giroud I think would be perfect. But there's been so many transfer windows now that we've been linked with him. So maybe this one might be finally the one where he comes in. And clearly at Chelsea, he's not getting any game time. But for me, Giroud, he knows the Conte system. He's played under Conte. He's one of those guys that's, I wouldn't say happy to sit on the bench, but he knows how to play his role in a team. He knows he's not going to be starting all the time. And he's better. I mean, Lukaku's improved his hold-up play and, everything, but that's not his natural game. Whereas Giroud, the hold-up play, playing back to goal, trying to link up with the, headers and knock downs, that's Giroud's like bread and butter. And, if we're going to play the cross it, inshallah game that a lot of times we end up playing, he's perfect for that. So I would be happy to bring in Giroud.
Manish, what are your thoughts on the transfer window? Like, who do you want to see in January to come to Inter?
See, the question is now, the $1 million question is, should Conte stick with the same formation 3-5-2? Because when you saw in the second half, when he went to a 4-man defense, apparently Inter seemed to be much more of a team. And like I said last week, when we saw like Bastoni, Skriniar, and De Vrij, all three play a 4-man at the back when playing for the national team. So they are used to that system. So I don't know how Conte might take this. This might be a turning point because during Chelsea also, he started off with a 4-man defense. And later on, I think he had a big thrashing by Arsenal or something like that, which he then made him shift to a 3-man defense. So possibly this could be the game where he realizes maybe the system's not working anymore. It's being ineffective. If Conte shifts to a 4-man defense, and that will completely change the whole scenario of what players we can sign, what not to sign, which I think is highly unlikely. Conte's going to change, but I just hope he learned something from that game because Inter really seemed in good shape in a 4-man defense. So talking about the players, I think we have to offload a couple of players first before we sign new ones, like people like Pinamonti. I don't think he's going to even start, but he's earning a hefty 2.5 million salary. That's insane. Players like Nainggolan, if you're not going to use him, might as well ship him out. Don't carry it for free transfers because absolutely no point keeping him on the bench. And apparently I've seen a video, I think last week, where Nainggolan was doing some training sessions. I don't know, was it a real video or was it a fake video? I don't know what. It was like completely, he was like, I think over the cones or something. Nainggolan seems completely out of shape. So players like that have to be shipped out first because they are a bad influence for the team. And then based on that, yes, Eriksen comes a big scenario. Should we keep Eriksen? Should we sell him? I don't think Conte is going to use him anymore this season. So the best alternative would be to sell him, swap deal. That'd be great. I like Rodrigo De Paul, but again, I think once we get him, the Conte is going to complain. He doesn't have that champion mentality. Like he just came from Udinese and stuff like that. The actual Conte banter. He normally says that from time to time. So the question is, who does Conte exactly want? I think Conte wants a player like N'Golo Kante. But will we get him this January season? That seems impossible. So one obvious signing is Giroud. Yes, we're going to get a good center forward as a backup for Lukaku. The second one should be ideally a good creative midfielder. So if you ask me, I would go for Isco for Eriksen, a direct swap. I don't think any other player. I hope we don't swap him for Arsenal like you said, Ozil. Forget Ozil. I think more realistic option was looking at Xhaka. I think he was rumored last week. Granit Xhaka's more like a defensive player, a defensive midfielder and a distributor. I hope we don't get him. Saying that, I think we should get definitely one good backup center forward, all-round midfielder like Rodrigo De Paul or Isco, and a proper left wing back. I think Ashley Young has been ineffective, and we don't have proper cover on the left side. So these three should be the main priority.
Yeah, but also we know that Conte might cry if you get De Paul and say that no, this is not the player that I wanted. But we have been listening to him now. We have got players that Conte wanted, and I don't see any improvement from last season. We have gone below last season. Like the way we are creating chances, the way we are playing, it's not up to par than what we were doing last season. So do we still have to listen to Conte, or does Marotta or Zanetti just say like, no, these are the players we want, you work with them?
No, so Gautam, I think that was done last season where Marotta and Zanetti or Zhang, they were in charge pretty much. And then they had a big crunch meeting at the end of the first season of Conte. Conte clearly told, back me and my plan. So pretty much this season belongs to Conte. We might sign a couple of more mid-30 players. Don't be surprised then. So it's pretty much Conte's has a free run. We cannot sack him. We cannot do him because I think he has a hefty wage bill. So pretty much this whole season is going to be Conte's vision. So we might sell Eriksen. We might sacrifice Eriksen for a defensive-minded central midfielder, which Conte wants so badly. So pretty much Conte is going to dictate this whole season. And I think the end of second season is where the whole, again, we might have a big board meeting to decide where we went wrong and things what we could have done better. But as of now, completely Conte's on the steering wheel. He's steering the direction, which direction Inter goes in at the moment, Gautam.
Parmeshwar, so the weekend away to Sassuolo now, and they are also in top form right now. And
Yeah.
do you have any hope for us after a performance against Real Madrid, or Serie A is a different ballgame altogether?
So yeah, I mean, coming off that Madrid game, this Sassuolo game is not going to be easy at all. If you've been watching Serie A, they've been magnificent so far. De Zerbi has been playing the same sort of football, but with better defensive capabilities this time around. And yeah, they look so much better on a whole. Like you have talented players like Jeremy Boga, Manuel Locatelli. Personally, Locatelli is one I would try for in January if possible, even though he's not a proper defensive midfielder per se. But as Rahul mentioned before, we need a proper ball carrying midfielder, who's press resistant, and I think Locatelli has actually developed his aspect of that game. So I would take him. But yeah, coming back to the match, yeah, this one's going to be really tough, man, because we've seen our defensive frailties so far, right? We play a high line and we get exposed, and then Sassuolo is known for that. The fast, fluid football, and they will press you. They won't necessarily, leave gaps for themselves. You have Domenico Berardi, who scores literally every time he plays against us. You have Caputo coming back from injury, and last season he was amazing. So yeah, this is going to be a tough match. I don't think we'll be winning this, but yeah. Like let's see. I mean, because I think if we lose this, then yeah, like our whole season becomes a proper mess, right? In the Champions League, there's no guarantee. Like we have to win the remaining matches, and then Serie A, you keep slipping further, and then you have teams like Roma, who people didn't think would do as good as they are right now. So yeah, it's a tough one. But as you asked me, Gautam, I would like to further extend this question to Rahul. Like if I read certain journalists saying this recently, but I don't think it was a realistic thing. They said that if Conte was sacked, let's say after the Europa League final, or let's say he were to leave in the future, Inter should consider getting Roberto De Zerbi. So what are your thoughts on that as a whole?
No, I think he's one of those. It's one of those ones where it's like they play nice football. They're very exciting young team to watch. Obviously, he's one of those coaches that will be there, but he's not. If you go from Spalletti to Conte and then to De Zerbi, like that just seems like you don't have a like what project are you trying to have? This is like you going for a young team now, then like the derby would fit, a project like Milan more, a team that's trying to build around young players, different style of play. I think with Inter, we're trying to win trophies again. So you have to go with the profile of a winner. You can't take a gamble on a young Italian coach like the derby, who I'm a big fan of, but just because I'm a fan of him doesn't mean I have to, want him at Inter. Same goes for Pochettino. He's been also mentioned by Inter fans, but I think you have to go, if Conte goes, you have to go for someone that's the same or higher level in terms of trophy winning. So Allegri, that's why Allegri is the one that I would want. I think most Inter fans want. He's the one that's tailor-made for the job pretty much. He's picked up the pieces from Conte in the past at Juventus when he left in a hissy fit there because they didn't sign him. Manuel Iturbe or Cuadrado, I can't remember one of those guys. So yeah, Allegri is the perfect man for me. I don't think that Zerbi is the one, but yeah, as you said, he's doing a great job, and yeah, not looking forward to that match against Sassuolo, who are known to be Inter's bogey team over the years in general. So right now it's not a good time to play them when they're probably them and Roma are probably the two most informed teams right now in Serie A.
So adding to what Rahul said, I just want to say about Allegri. So Allegri seems definitely the perfect fit. At what point do we all decide, like, okay, this is the time that Conte's done? Because I think he has one more year left in his season. So, and pretty much, I don't know, I just have a general thought about Conte's. I think football has evolved over the years much more. Like people like Mourinho is struggling to build up with the current fluid football, like how Klopp is playing or Guardiola is playing. I think Mourinho slightly learned to adapt at Tottenham. Do you think like Conte is going to adapt his football over the years? Because I think this tactics, like a solid 3-5-2 formation was good, like maybe a decade ago or 5 years back. But now currently going forward from here, do you think like this type of defensive football, not exactly defensive, I mean like stuck on the tactics properly, like not freely, like Zidane or Klopp or Pep Guardiola, football is more fluid, more free. So Rahul, do you think like Conte has to evolve or pretty much if he doesn't evolve, he'll be outplayed like Mourinho? Mourinho's tactics didn't work at Man United. And I feel he has changed quite a bit coming to Tottenham. So what do you think, Rahul, on that point?
I don't know. I don't think so, because Conte is the one, like when you think about it now, this is the most, I think I read a stat as well regarding 3-man defenses. This most teams in Europe now are starting to adopt the 3-man defense. It's a bit of a shift. Before it used to be, the 4-man defense was the majority and 3 was like the exception, especially when Conte went to the Premier League. After he changed the Chelsea formation to the 3-4-3 or whatever it was, there was a shift afterwards, and then even England afterwards in the World Cup 2018 ended up playing with the 3-5-2 formation. So he definitely had a big impact to Conte in England in the Premier League. And a lot of teams, Chelsea still sometimes revert back to that formation. Arsenal nowadays play with 3 at the back. Man United as well. So I wouldn't say, and in terms of, you said Conte needs to evolve, I think he is trying to evolve. He's, as I was saying earlier, he's talking about all this attacking football now. He's made an Instagram, like I think he's trying to like rebrand his image a little bit from what he used to be. I think at Chelsea he was definitely known to be a very defensive coach, and a Juve as well. But I think now he's talking about attacking football, but it's not the most eye-pleasing football that we see. But we're definitely not defensive, so he needs to be. There was an interview where I saw he was talking about the coach needs to be like a tailor who tailors the suit to his team. But I don't really see him doing that. He's like trying to hammer the team into this 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2. So I think he needs to listen to his own words sometimes. Yeah, he needs to be a bit more adaptable to situations and players. But yeah, I'm not sure about evolving. I think even Mourinho, you mentioned, I think he's still playing the 4-2-3-1, basically still at Tottenham, that he was playing for many years now. I think it's just sometimes it just takes some time for players to adapt to the system. And I think Man United it's just a toxic environment. I think you can see even with Ole, with anyone that's come there, Van Gaal, Moyes, anyone that's come there is just a toxic hole. But yeah, with Conte, I think it's more about him adapting and more than evolving.
So you mentioned that Conte has been talking about attacking football and different strategies. So do you think he's conflicted in his own mind as to what to do, and that is affecting the results and the way he's training the players?
Yeah, because they asked him yesterday. I think Fabio Capello asked him in the Sky Sports. They asked him like, your team's conceding a lot of goals, and do you feel like you maybe need to change formation? And yeah, he's still stuck to his ways. He was like, yeah, we might be conceding a bit more, but we're top scorers in Italy right now. So there seems to be a bit of confliction there, like from the Conte that everyone knows that he would adapt his tactics to make sure his team is solid first, to this Conte who's like seems to be obsessed about trying to overload the box and trying to outscore the team. So it's very confusing. I'm not really sure where this shift has come from. I don't remember him speaking like this last season.
So, Rahul, I just like to ask you about something related to his press conferences. A lot of times of late, he's been talking about how Liverpool trusted Klopp with their project.
He's obsessed with that.
Yeah, he's brought that up a lot of times. So my question here is that if you had the chance to trust Antonio Conte with such a project, like actual 4 years, like let's say an extension beyond his 3-year contract, would you do that? Because we've seen, we know what Conte is like, and we know what Klopp is like. We know their differences. We know the changes Klopp made to Liverpool. He was clear with his vision, and we saw them. They've won everything like possible now. So, do you think Conte is someone personally? If you had the power to make that decision, would you trust Conte with such a project? Like, would you let's say this season isn't successful as well. Like we don't win anything, but we probably do the same thing. Would you give him would you let him have his final year and probably, buy into his talks of, it being a project and maybe even extend his contract on that basis?
No. I think with Conte, I'm ready. Like, yeah, I'm ready for a 3-year project. I don't like, ending if it's not going well, maybe you can end it. But I would like to see a 3-year project. But we've never seen with Conte, he's never stayed somewhere that long. So, and then we also know what he does to squads. We know the squad that he left to at Chelsea was like, you're there, you have like Danny Drinkwater and Alvaro Morata, Zappa Costa. You like the next manager is like, what the hell am I gonna do with this? Like 15 wing backs. And here the problem with Conte compared to Klopp is he tries to be like the sporting director of the team. It's like he wants specific players, and you can clearly see like with Klopp, from what I've read, it seems like there's a bit more of a team there where they look at the analytics and stuff, and they see what types of players would fit into the Liverpool high pressing, gegen pressing system. But with Conte, it seems like he points to players. I want Victor Moses, Ashley Young. Like he's got these specific players that he wants, and he usually ends up getting, but it doesn't work for a long term. You can't. I wouldn't trust Conte with a long-term project. But I'm happy to give him 3 years just because how desperate I am for Inter to come back to winning trophies. And I know it's not going well right now, but I was happy when he was appointed, and I'm happy to still. I'm still not Conte out.
Yeah. So for the weekend, what is your starting lineup going to be? Like, who do you want to, like Brozovic is back. So would you start him immediately, or would you bring him on as a sub or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure about Brozovic starting here because he's only, I think today he's tested negative, right? So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's probably trained last few days. So I'm not sure he would be ready to start. But we probably do need a bit of rotation because obviously straight after that on the Tuesday or the Wednesday we have Mönchengladbach again. So yeah, it's important that we don't play the exact same formation. So a little bit of rotation would be good to see. Maybe D'Ambrosio coming in to the right centre back position. I would like to see maybe Darmian coming in for Hakimi. Hakimi looks like his morale seems to be quite low at the moment. He's not quite worked out yet, that transfer, which is, you know, I was super excited about that transfer, but it's not really worked out. So yeah, I would like to see Damian coming in. I would like to see Sanchez being given a start again, because he was good against Torino in the second half. He wasn't good in the first half, but no one wasn't good in the first half. And I hope to see, you know, Vidal, you know, I guess kind of punished. You know, I heard he's gonna be fined by the club, which is quite right. But yeah, because if let's say Ericsson or Sainz or someone, you know, younger made that mistake, they would have been out of the lineup. But we know Vidal is like Conte's son, and he'll be straight back into the lineup. But I don't want to see that. I want to see, you know, Conte, you know, showing that, you know, these kind of things are not allowed to happen. Although we are kind of short in the midfield, but I don't know. Hopefully, you know, Sensi, we saw he had 20 minutes at the end of the match there against Real Madrid as well. So maybe, I'm not sure if you want to risk him from the beginning against his old club. I would like to know more about the Nangolan situation. Is he really that out of shape that, you know, he can't start any games? He can't be given 50, 60 minutes. Ericsson, I would like to see him play, but it looks like, you know, he's out of the squad. So I would go with, you know, D'Ambrosio, De Vrij, Bastoni at the back. And then in midfield, I would probably try to go with the Barella, but also Barella needs a rest because he's played every single minute for us and for Italy in the international break. Yeah, it's very difficult at the moment. So I would go with Barella, give Sensi a start and see, you know, if he has like 60, 70 minutes in his legs. And then I would like to see Sanchez as well starting in that CAM role, but Conte said he's never going to do that from the beginning. So I'm just giving you my lineup, but this is not going to be the lineup. So I would like to see Barella, Sensi, Sanchez with Lautaro and Lukaku up front, and Darmian and Ashley Young, because I don't think Perisic is a wing back. I don't really like seeing him in that position.
So you spoke about rotation as well, but so you're still keeping hope up for Champions League round of 16?
Well, I think as an Inter, if you're Inter, you have to keep the hope alive. I don't know what you guys' feeling is. I would rather miss out on third spot, but you still have to rotate though, haven't you? Like it's Sassuolo is not going to be an easy match. So, you know, Vidal has played a lot of minutes as well. So even in that case, not just for the punishment's sake, I would see him, you know, getting tired as well recently. So I wouldn't start him just for that reason as well, because he's looked a bit leggy recently. He played every single minute for Chile as well. He's 33 years old, so I'm not sure how much juice he's got left. So he does probably deserve a rest as well. Barella, he almost has to be starting here. We've got no choice. But yeah, in terms of the Champions League, I think you have to, if you're Inter, you have to go for it, and then you have to see on the final match day whether, you know, you go for that. Where are we? Are we third? Are we, you know, challenging for the second spot? Then I would rather just him in the last match day. If we're not gonna, you know, challenge for second, let's just go and crash out the competition so we can just focus on Serie A and Scudetto race rather than, because last year we did well in the Europa League because we had that mini tournament type situation where we finished Serie A and then we just had the Europa League, so there was no 2 games a week to concentrate. But Conte has proven in the past he struggles with that as well, the 2 games a week, the rotation of teams. He's always struggled with that, the European games. So I would rather just try to focus on Serie A this year. If we're not going to progress in the Champions League, try to go for the Coppa Italia properly this year as well. That at least one trophy needs to come back to Milan this year. No, AC Milan, obviously.
Yeah, Manish, same thing to you. Like, would you rather crash out of the Champions League if you're not finishing in the top 2? Would you rather see us go out altogether of Europe and concentrate on Coppa and Serie A? Or would you want to fight till the last end? Europa League is fine.
So I don't want to sound a bit negative, but saying that I don't think Inter is going to qualify because I think over the last few years it's been I don't know. It's like we're always excited, last day we're going to do it, last day we're going to do it. And then when it happens, that's it, the world ends. So I don't want that to happen now. So I'm mentally preparing myself quite earlier that we're not going to qualify. So because Champions League has never been a target, I don't think, I think, yes, Zhang wanted us to qualify to the next group. So that for financial reasons, pretty much that's why it has been important playing in Champions League. If you qualify out of the group, you get this extra 15, 20 million, which is very useful at this point for the club. So that is one reason why the club pushing for the Champions League. But saying that, once we qualify, hypothetically, once we qualify out of the group, we're going to face the winners of other group. That's Bayern Munich, PSG, Barcelona. So I don't want to be humiliated once again because right now they're in a much better form and much better shape than us. So even though if we qualify, I'm sure we're going to get knocked out in the next following round, unless something drastically changes within the club. Saying that, okay, that is one scenario. Other scenario is if we go to the Europa League, I think we can win it because this time, funny enough, Sevilla qualified in the Champions League. So they're not there in Europa League this time. So now is a good chance for us because I think they are serial winners for Europa League. They've been winning it year in and year out. So this year could be the year for us in Europa League because I'm not very confident on the league and Coppa Italia. I want Inter to win some sort of silverware. I don't mind if it's Europa League. So if you ask me personally, I think, okay, although Europa League would be much of a hassle, but we have a big squad. And I think Conte should learn to rotate players like Nainggolan, players like Sensi can get a good run in Europa League or in the league. So we have depth, we have a big depth. So I think we should use more of that, Gautam.
Parmeshwar, same question to you. We do need a silverware this season. Like after last season's performance, for me personally, I thought we are going to win Coppa Italia this year. And that was the trophy I was looking for more than the Scudetto, because Scudetto might be a bit tough in the second year for Conte as well. But I thought Coppa Italia will be our tournament. So if we go down to the Europa League, do you think it's worth to challenge or just concentrate on League and Coppa?
You know what, Manish and Rahul both brought up interesting points, because what Rahul said in the first place, Conte is not good at managing those games week in and week out. And with Europa League, you play a day later and then still, you have games early on. They don't reschedule it in a lot of cases. So, that could prove to be at our disadvantage. But whereas to what Manish said, you need every chance you can get to win a silverware, right, at the end of the day. But so how do you look at it? Because the thing is, let's say if we finish last in the group, let's say if we crash out completely, fans will be even more outraged. They'd be like, this is probably one of the worst performances we've had ever in the Champions League. The entirety of our history. They'd be like, we probably finished with 2 or 3 points, so they'll still call for his head. Whereas if we manage to claw and get into the Europa League, at least, there's that sense of, there's the thing that, you're still in a European competition at the end of the day, right? Beat the Europa League or something. And maybe we can win it, Sevilla aren't there. But, at the same time, you have good teams in there, if AC Milan continue their form, they're still there. You have Tottenham Hotspur who have great depth in their squad, they're flying in the Premier League. And I expect them to reach the final at least of the Europa League. Can we beat them? I don't know. Then you have Napoli as well. So it's not going to be an easy competition. So again, this season, the story has been, I personally felt that Conte still hasn't exactly found his best 11 per se. He's been overwhelmed with that squad depth. So I think that factor could spill over if, we were to get demoted to the Europa League and if we had so many games to manage at once. So yeah, I mean, if all in all, if I had to pick one option, even though it's a harsh one, I would take crashing out altogether, because then, as Rahul said, you can just focus on the league. You have the depth for the league, play every 7 days, you can prepare well. That's Conte's strength, and then you can bounce back. And yeah, I mean, AC Milan are flying, and Juventus are always in the title race. You can't count them out. But these problems, right, we have right now, for the maybe first time in a lot of years, they've come so early on, right? Usually it's like January, February, and it's too late to assess those problems by then. The Mercato is over. But this time we have the window to assess those issues. So I think, yeah, I mean, if it has to be, if we draw Mönchengladbach next week or if we lose, then I'm fine. I mean, as much as it hurts, it's okay. I mean, like then Conte can assess and he knows that yeah, it's all over. Might as well focus on the league and go ahead with that.
Yeah, Rahul. So this one's for you. Parmeshwar brought up an interesting point wherein like we usually have the interbills effect in Jan and Feb, and now we are sucking in the start of the season as well. Do you think it's a blessing in disguise wherein like we know our weaknesses now and can approach the January transfer window with much more clarity? Like this is what we need to improve to the second half of the season.
Yeah. So it's a very good point. Yeah, actually, I didn't really think about that. It's a bit. Usually we start off amazing. We're first by December, and then we crash down. I think it could be a blessing in disguise. Maybe that we know where we need to address, like where Conte knows already. What he probably needs to improve the squad. I think this year is a little bit trickier than other years because of the COVID economy and situation. So it all depends on whether we manage to get some money for Eriksen or other players that need to be offloaded. But I think if we manage to do that, I think it could be a good thing where by January, if our form improves, by the winter break, this time maybe for once we might go into January with good form rather than coming down January, February on a downward spiral and then trying to save the season again. With this time, maybe we'll go on a upward spiral now where we're improving going into January and then continuing staying consistent rather than going down. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see a new dynamic of the season.
Rahul, I had just one more question for you. So you've of course been following AC Milan and how they've been doing so well all of a sudden, and of course it's been the opposite now. So when you look at what Beppe Marotta's initial vision was, to sign younger players and more Italian, probably like Tonali, and then of course Kumbula as well as part of the younger core. And then when you look at what Milan did, somewhat like that, if you see their signings, do you think, like as a project, do you find AC Milan's project on a whole, like looking into the future, more enticing than what we have at the moment? Because I was on board with Beppe Marotta's ideas personally, like completely Kumbula, Tonali, everything. But then it's like we've compromised a significant chunk of it for Antonio Conte. And then as you pointed out, when Antonio Conte leaves a club, the players, they're a mess. You pointed it out. So as of now, do you think AC Milan's project, the direction they're going in, is something you'd rather have than what we have right now?
Well, our project, I would say, is trying to win things, which I think AC Milan's project is what Inter's project was with Spalletti at the beginning, was just trying to get top four. So I don't think we should get carried away yet with Milan. Inter looked like this 2 years ago on the Spalletti's first season and then the second season as well. It's just I think things will start to level out later on in the season. The squad is very young. I don't see them staying at this form for the whole full season. With Zlatan getting injuries here and there as well, I think they will be affected. So I think right now it looks like, the AC Milan's project is definitely, the shining light. But, I think they're trying to do what we did a few years ago. But obviously right now we're failing at our current project, which is we're trying to win. But I'd rather have the winning project. I think that's what we need right now. When you have a manager that you're paying 12 million net a year, I think you have to try to accommodate his wishes. I wish there was a middle ground where it wasn't every single player that Conte asks for we get. I wish we could find like a midway point. But when you have as Manish pointed out, he has so much power right now with the wages he commands. He has the last say in everything. So I wish there was a halfway point, but I would rather have the Inter and Marotta project, in my opinion.
So now, as we interest, we are glutton for punishment. That's why we support the team. And we always do a prediction at the end of the podcast. So coming to you, Rahul, first, what is your prediction for the weekend? Like, what would be the final score?
Oh, are we home or away, by the way?
We are away.
Away, I think. Away.
Oh. Oof. I mean, yeah, as I said, Sassuolo have always been a bogey team for Inter. And this, I think, Conte and the boys need a result to turn things around. I would like, even if we don't get a win, I need to see a reaction. One of the things I'm worried about with this team, which happened against Torino only in the last, 30 minutes, was, Conte teams are known to be, pressers, the intensity, that's what the teams are known for. And this, we're struggling to see that at the moment. So at least I want to see some signs of life in terms of this team, going out there and playing in a Conte team type of way. And then the dressing room is still behind him. So I want to see that he hasn't lost the dressing room, which is, once you lose the dressing room, that's it. That's the end of a coach's time. So I want to see a performance. My prediction is a 2-2 draw. Both teams are quite, attacking, free scoring. Sassuolo are not, they're doing better defensively than they have in the past, but they are at the end of the day is Vlad Chiriches at the back in the Ferrari. So I wouldn't say it's the greatest defense in the world. So I would say a 2-2 draw I'm seeing at the weekend.
On to you next. What are your predictions again?
I'm not very optimistic going into this match because, like as Rahul just said, they're a tad bit more defensively solid. And yes, even though it's Vlad Chiriches and Gianmarco Ferrari, I don't know. I just feel we aren't in that zone right now. And, I think that's still going to continue for a bit maybe. So I'll try to be positive, but maybe a 2-1 loss or a 2-2 draw.
Manish, on to you next.
So Parmeshwar stole the words exactly out of my mouth. So I think Sassuolo is going to start with the +1 advantage with Berardi obviously going to score. He's going to cut in Arjen Robben style and going to give a, I think, 40-yard belter, which Handanovic is pretty much going to stand his ground and look past his post. That's pretty much Handanovic this season. So not this season, I think for the longest time. So Sassuolo is going to win it 2-1, or on the bright side, 2-2 draw. Is what I feel this result is going to be. This match is going to be.
Okay, so I'm going to take a punt here and say we are going to win 3-1. I somehow feel like, because Conte might say anything, we are still Forza Inter. And when we are down, when we least expect it, I think the players will play for 90 minutes and will win 3-1. They won't just turn up after 70 minutes and try to recover. I think they'll be proactive this game, and I am betting they're going to win 3-1 this time.
Wow.
All right. So there you have it, folks. This was another episode of Inter Club India podcast. Please do follow Uncle Sharma on Twitter. All his links are in the description. Thank you.